Okay, hi guys. So this is the exercise for this chapter, uh, the proper exercise. So in this question, there's information regarding Pisano company that uses job costing system at its plant. The plant has two departments, a machining department and a finishing department. Pisano uses normal costing with two direct cost categories, direct materials and direct labor, and also two manufacturing overhead cost pools. Machine department with machine hour as the cost allocation base, and the finishing department with direct manufacturing labor cost as the cost allocation base. Here's the 2014 budget for the plant. We have manufacturing overhead costs, direct manufacturing labor costs, direct manufacturing labor hours, and also machine hour for each department. Okay, for number one, we are asked to prepare an overview diagram of Pisano job costing system. Okay, since drawing in Excel is a bit difficult, so I will just copy and paste the diagram of Pisano's job costing system. So here's the diagram. So if you want to prepare an overview diagram of company's job costing system, the first thing that you want to do is to identify the cost object because there is no information regarding the product that the Pisano company produced. We just call the cost object as job. So the job is the product that the Pisano company produces. The job itself consists of direct costs and indirect costs. The direct costs consist of direct materials and direct manufacturing labor. As for indirect costs, or we, as we known as uh, manufacturing overhead costs, consists of two types of cost pools. The first one is machining department manufacturing overhead and finishing department manufacturing overhead. The cost allocation base for each cost pool is different. For machining department manufacturing overhead, the cost allocation base is machine hour in machining department, while for the finishing department, the cost allocation base is the direct manufacturing labor cost in finishing department. So here's we have the overview diagram of Pisano job costing system. Okay, now moving on to number two. For number two, what is the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate in the machine department and in the finishing department? So for number two, we want to find the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for each department. So let's just start with machining department. Okay, so we know that to calculate the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate, we divide the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost by the budgeted quantity of cost allocation base. So we know that the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost for machining department is $9,065,000. That's $9,065,000 divided by the quantity of the cost allocation base. So the cost allocation base for machining department is the machine hour in machining department. So the machine hour in the machine department is equal to $185,000. So we put this $185,000 and then we get the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost for machining department equal to $49 per machine hour. So this is the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for machine department. So now we want to find the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for finishing department. Budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for finishing department. So the equation is the same. The budgeted manufacturing overhead cost divided by the budgeted quantity of cost allocation base. So the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost for finishing department is this $8,181,000, $8,181,000 divided by the cost allocation base. So the cost allocation base for finishing department is the direct manufacturing labor cost. So we want to find what is the direct manufacturing labor cost for finishing department. And turns out, here's the $4,050,000. $4,050,000. Okay, so we get budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for finishing department is equal to 2.02 times direct labor cost, or 202% of direct labor cost in finishing department. Okay, so that's for number 2. Now moving on to number 3. Number 3, we were given the job cost record for job 431. So we have direct materials, direct labor, direct manufacturing labor hours, and machine hours. We have to compute the total manufacturing overhead cost allocated to job 431. Okay, so there are 2 departments, machining department and finishing department. We know that to calculate the total manufacturing overhead cost allocated, we multiply the actual quantity with the standard price. It's the same for finishing department. So the actual quantity of cost allocation base for machining department is the machine hour used, which is 140 times the standard price, or the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for machining department, which is 49. So we get $6,860 of manufacturing overhead cost allocated. For finishing department, we have to find the actual quantity of cost allocation base. The cost allocation base is the direct manufacturing labor cost in finishing department. So here we have $1,250 labor cost times 2.02. Standard price is the same as budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for finishing department. Have $2,525. So the total manufacturing overhead cost allocated will be $9,385. This is total manufacturing overhead cost allocated. Okay, number 4. Assuming that job 431 consists of 300 units of product, what is the cost per unit? So in order to calculate the cost per unit of job 431, we first have to calculate the total cost for job 431. Okay, so as we know, total manufacturing cost or total product cost consists of 3 types of costs: direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Then we have 2 departments, machining and finishing. The direct material used for machining department is $13,000, and for finishing department, it uses $5,000 of direct material. For direct manufacturing labor cost, machining department used $900, and the finishing department used $1,250. For the manufacturing overhead cost allocated, because you use normal costing, we can just copy this number from number 2 to this manufacturing overhead cost. So we have $9,860 dollar manufacturing overhead cost for machining department and $2,520 manufacturing overhead for finishing department. Okay. Now we find the total cost for this product. Total cost for direct material, the total cost is $18,000. For direct labor, it is $2,150. And for the manufacturing overhead, it is $9,385. And the total cost is $29,535. Now, if job 41 consisted of 300 units of product, then the cost per unit will be the total manufacturing cost divided by $300. Then we have the cost per unit is $98.45 per unit. So this is the cost per unit for number 4. Now moving on to number 5. We have to calculate the under or over allocated manufacturing overhead for each department and for Dover plant as a whole. Okay, so in order to compute the under or over allocated manufacturing overhead, we first have to find the actual manufacturing overhead and the budgeted manufacturing overhead. There is the department, machining and finishing. For machining department, it's quite straightforward. The manufacturing overhead incurred for machining department is $10 million. And for finishing department is $7,982,000. For budgeted manufacturing overhead, we have to calculate it using the equation actual quantity times standard price. The same goes for the finishing department. So the actual quantity of the cost allocation rate or machine hours for machining department is $200,000 hours, times the standard price is the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost for machining department, which is 49. So this is the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost, which is $9,800,000. As for the finishing department, the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost is actual quantity. Actual quantity is the direct manufacturing labor cost in the finishing department, which is $100,000, times the standard price or the budgeted manufacturing overhead rate for finishing department, 2.02, and then we get $9,282,000. Okay, so from this actual and budgeted manufacturing overhead cost, we know the under and over allocation of each department manufacturing overhead. For machine department, because the actual manufacturing overhead cost is larger than the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost, it means that the manufacturing overhead cost is under allocated. Because the result is positive, it means the actual is higher than what it is predicted. As for finishing department, the actual manufacturing overhead cost is lower than the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost. So we over allocate the manufacturing overhead cost for finishing department. So here's the result is negative. Okay, so we know the under and over allocation for each department. Now we have to compute the under or over allocated manufacturing overhead for the Dover plant as a whole. So we just sum up this number, the under allocation for machine department plus the over allocation for finishing department. Okay. Because the result is negative, it means that we over allocate the manufacturing overhead cost in Dover plant. So we have $100,000 over allocation of manufacturing overhead. Here's over allocation of Dover plant. Okay. Last but not least, number 6. Why might Pisano use two different manufacturing overhead cost pools in its job costing system? Okay, so actually, before we assign an item to be the cost allocation base for a cost pool, we have to first understand the cause and effect relationship between those two. For example, in Pisano Company, the machining department mainly used machine as its production process. So it's very logical to use machine hour as the cost allocation base to calculate the manufacturing overhead costs allocated. While for machine finishing department, maybe uh, it used more direct labor than machine to finish the packaging of the product or just finish the product itself. So therefore, it is more logical to use direct manufacturing labor cost as the cost allocation base to calculate the total manufacturing overhead cost allocated. So therefore, if each department has its own cost allocation base, based on a company may hope that it will provide a more accurate estimation of the manufacturing overhead allocated. So therefore, the adjustment made at the end of the accounting year wouldn't be that large because we already use the proper cost allocation base with clear cause and effect relationship for each department. Okay, so that's the answer for number 6. It's because Pisano company wants to provide a more accurate estimation for manufacturing overhead costs. So it divided the department and give each department its own cost allocation based on its production process. Machining department use machine hours and finish department use direct manufacturing labor costs. Okay, so that's it for number 6, and that's all from the exercise. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, just ask me or your teaching assistant, and see you next week.